Hello there, lovely folks of YouTube. Ren here. It's Yule time! Yay! Everyone's favorite time of year, right? So to celebrate the season, I have another tea recipe as always. I had to tinker a little bit more with this one than the others previously, but I did finally get it right. This Yule tea is inspired by the pomanders that we make at Yule, which are like the where you take the oranges and you stud them with cloves and roll them in cinnamon. It's basically what this tea is supposed to embody. I didn't choose any specific correspondences for the ingredients other than, you know, things that are used in the pomanders and things that are associated with that tend to have like a fiery or solar aspect to them, because that's what Yule is. We're welcoming back the sun. So, got my recipe here. Hang on, let me get back to my little place where I saved here. We're going to get started here. So, I'm going to start with the biggest component here, my black tea. This is an actual tea blend. So, I'm making a little bit more because I'm going to be sharing this. So, my parts are going to be tablespoons, which don't always split up evenly because it's going to be weird, but just trust me, okay? So, we start with 4 parts of black tea, so that's going to be 4 tablespoons. 1, 3, and 4. There we go. Next ingredient, orange peel. So we're going to do 2 parts of orange peel. This is literally just orange peel that I got off of some oranges that I got at the grocery store. We're just going to start by breaking this into little pieces. I probably should have done some of this in advance, but I did others in advance and I didn't think about the oranges. How time consuming that can be. So for those of you who live in the US, if you are familiar with, I think it's Bigelow that makes it. They have a tea, it's called Constant Comment, which is sort of like an orange and spice tea. This is sort of reminiscent of that. So if you like Constant Comment, you'll probably like this tea. If you are not a fan of Constant Comment, that you might want to try one of my other teas. Or, you know, do something else, because that's the nice thing about recipes like this, is that you don't necessarily have to follow the recipe exactly. You can tweak it to your own taste. As you get more experience, you get a lot better at tweaking things. A lot of the times, like when I cook now, or even just with spell work too, because those two things are similar skill sets. You know, if you know what the ingredients that are involved are, you know how to tweak them or replace them as needed, what you can substitute them with. So now, like when I'm looking for a recipe or something along those lines, I don't necessarily follow it exactly. Sometimes I'll just look at 2 or 3 different recipes and combine my favorite aspects of those recipes into one recipe that is basically my own. Okay, we got this mostly done here. Let me get my pestle here and we'll finish this out. This orange peel is a little softer. Not going to grind very well because it still has a lot of that orange oil in it. It's fairly fresh. I just dried this a couple months ago, so. Alright, I think I really want to get that smaller. There we go. I think that will be good enough. So there's our 2 parts of orange peel. Back side. Alright, you may have noticed also, I've got a new mortar and pestle. This is just for craft work now, so I don't have to borrow my kitchen mortar and pestle when I want to grind like frankincense resin. That's really nice. Alright, next thing is 1/2 part of ginger. Now, when I'm using tablespoons, I don't have a 1/2 tablespoon measure. I have to do some conversion, a little bit of math. So each tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So 1/2 tablespoon would be 1½ teaspoons. Now, this is one of the ones that I did pre-grind. So that's my ginger there. And we're doing, that's 1 teaspoon and 1/2 teaspoon, and that's pretty much exactly what I needed. So we'll just put all of that in there. Because again, you gotta follow your heart. our next ingredient is cloves. So, and again, we're doing 1.5 part, or 3 part, 1/2 a part, which in my case, using a tablespoon, is 1.5 teaspoons. There we go. Now I have my numbers straight. These have not been ground up, but they don't take long. 1.5 teaspoons makes a 1/2 part. This new mortar and pestle grinds like a dream. It's lovely. It's solid granite. I got it at an import store for under $10. That's a pro tip there. If you're looking for something like a witchy tool that also happens to be something that's widely used in the kitchen, go to a kitchenware store. Don't go to a witch store, you know. There we go. So that's our 1/2 part of cloves to go along with our ginger and orange and tea. Next is a 1/2 part of cinnamon. This is another one that I preemptively mixed up here. So that's 1 and yep, a 1/2 teaspoons of cinnamon makes a 1/2 part of cinnamon. All right, now this last part, this last ingredient is optional. I added this in to kind of give this a little bit more of that fiery solar oomph, but the flavor may be a little off for some of you. So if you're not a fan, feel free to admit it. And that is juniper berries. Juniper berries to me are just the epitome of Christmas. They even have that sort of, you know, Christmas tree kind of smell to them. Now we are only doing 1/8 a part juniper, which in the case of this recipe would be about 3/8 of a teaspoon, which is really only about, let me see, that's maybe 5 juniper berries there. I don't want to overdo it. I'd rather err on the lower side than on the higher side with this ingredient, because like I said, it can be strong and a little overpowering. If you're not familiar with juniper, it is the primary flavoring agent in gin. In fact, we get the name gin from the Latin name of juniper, which is Juniper. So these I'm going to have kind of fine, because I want to make sure that I don't have like one bit of tea that has a massive amount of juniper in it. I want it to be well spread out. So there's our juniper. There we go. And as always, we mix. Mix, 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 mix. It's a delightful smell. Oh yeah. So there's our finished tea. Orange is the primary note here. That's what you're mostly going to get on the palate, is that orange. But it has that little hint of warming spice underneath it, and it is just a delightful, nice Yuletime tea. Something nice to cozy up with next to the fireplace while reading a book, because I know that's what I plan on doing with this. So anyway, that's my recipe. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you get the chance to try this, because I have, and it's delicious. And I hope this video finds you well, and I will see you again soon.